How much?
Excuse me?
Wait, what are you doing?
Come on, he's made of pure gold. He's got to be worth something.
I do not trade for living things.
No, come on, we're friends.
So you're saying if he was dead, then...
That's not exactly what I...
Please don't kill me.
Ladies, gentlemen, and trainers of all ages, when it comes to Pokemon, there are varying power levels, of course. Some are beloved because they're just cute and silly, but others are used by a ton of players simply because they are ludicrously powerful. However, even among those considered brokenly strong, there are some so ridiculously good that they have been banned from competitive play. Specifically, we are talking about Smogon, a community of competitive battling that organizes tournaments and such, and for the most part, this is based around singles format battling. To put it into perspective, there is a council in this community, including some of the most skilled Pokemon battlers that are out there, and for a Pokemon to be officially banned in this format, it has to be agreed upon by at minimum 7 out of the 9 council members. In other words, great players have to nearly unanimously agree that a Pokemon is overpowered as hell for this to happen. So far, this generation has seen 4 Pokemon banned, and, well, there is one that, while not yet banned, yet it is probably not particularly far off. So today I thought it would be fun to talk about these 5 Pokemon and why exactly they are as strong as they are. After all, we don't all play by the Smogon rules, and so you can still use these Pokemon in your general battling and of course in PvE content too. So without further ado, let's talk about the Pokemon that are banned and the one that I think is probably not far off. Number 5.
I love gold!
Gholdengo. This one hasn't been banned yet, but it is definitely being watched quite closely, and there are a lot of good reasons for that. First up, it is a Steel Ghost dual type, meaning its only actual weaknesses are fire and ground type moves. It is either resistant or neutral to everything else. It also has a notably high, extremely high special attack stat actually, of 133, and is decently tanky against both physical and special attacks. Its signature move is called Make It Rain. It's a 120 power steel move that also hits both enemy Pokemon if you happen to be doing doubles battles, with the downside of lowering your special attack by 1 stage per use. However, combined with its special attack, this is pretty much enough to one-shot anything with stab factored in. On top of that, it has an ability called Good as Gold, which just straight up makes it immune to all statuses in the game. Even things like Memento will fail when used against it. It even makes Strength Sap fail. The only things it doesn't block really are field traps. As a result, you can't really tech it into submission, you just have to straight up man-fight it. The general moveset people are using on him is most commonly a mix of Make It Rain, obviously, Shadow Ball for an 80 power ghost move which has stab, Dazzling Gleam just to give it some more coverage against fighting, dragon, and dark types, and Thunderbolt for a high power move, Thunder move, for coverage against water and flying types. Most frequently used item for it is of course Choice Spec, simply because Make It Rain is already a ridiculous move, and having Choice Spec boosts both the initial usage of it, but also essentially negates the first stat drop from using it, bringing it back to neutral on its second use, which is still enough to one-shot most Pokemon. On which note, a lot of people just keep it to Terra Steel type for the double stab on Make It Rain, which once again counters out one of the stat drops from using it, which means if you do both of these things together, it'll be the third cast of this ability, which will still be neutral strength with your original stab bonus. Instead, some people go for Terra Flying though, as the main meta counter to Gholdengo is something like Garchomp, and this just makes you immune to its ground type moves completely, meaning the only real weakness remaining for this Pokemon is fire type moves. This Pokemon has 30% usage in VGC, which is duo battles, and that is 3% higher than any other Pokemon in that format, 32% usage in Smogon single battles, which is a whopping 9% higher than any other Pokemon in that format, and if that doesn't say it all, then nothing else really will. The only real overall weakness that it has is its speed, which is pretty middling, but as long as you can survive even one hit, which it generally is tanky enough to do, Make It Rain will just cause absolute destruction in its wake. If you want to be absolutely sure you can survive, Focus Sash as an item is always a great option too. The big thing though is it's just pure immunity to statuses. It makes it incredibly hard to counter without building a Pokemon for the sole purpose of, oh god, I do not want to fight Gholdengo today, and then that's one of your teams set for that. Number 4.
Your dog's dead!
Houndstone. This is the simplest one on this list. It is all based around last respects, and the reason it is banned is quite simply that if it wasn't, then pretty much every party in singles battles would have a Houndstone waiting at the end of it. To explain, Houndstone itself has 101 attack, which is good but not ridiculous, unless you of course combo it with an insanely strong physical move. Enter Last Respects. This is a ghost physical move unique to Houndstone that has 50 power and 100% accuracy, however it also gains 50 power for every friendly Pokemon that has died within that battle. In other words, in a 6v6, if Houndstone is the last member of your party still alive and it comes out, this is a 300 power move with absolutely no downsides attached to it. That is insane, absolutely nuts. The other moves that you'd use with it don't really matter because this is the entire reason that you would use this Pokemon. The only weakness this Pokemon has is its speed. Last Respects, when fully buffed, can one-shot any Pokemon in the game, but if you don't go first in the turn, that may not really help you. Thankfully though, this Pokemon can get the ability Sand Rush, which doubles its speed if there's a sandstorm happening, so all you have to do is get one of your fodder Pokemon to stick up a sandstorm before they die, and it goes nuts. As well, you can just use the Choice Scarf on Houndstone to boost its speed by 50% at the cost of only being able to use one move, but, well, for obvious reasons, the only move that you want to use on Houndstone in a competitive setting on any kind is Last Respects, and so there is no actual downside to this in the end. If you pile enough speed on it to make it guaranteed to go first, then you can just wipe an entire party before they can retaliate. It is nuts and deservedly banned. Number 3.
As for the rest of you, I'm going to tear off your skin like wrapping paper and deck the halls with your guts.
Iron Bundle. This Pokemon is just offensively ludicrous. As a water-ice dual type, its only weaknesses are electric, grass, fighting, and rock type moves. It cancels out all of its other weaknesses, and then it also gets access to a couple of absolutely nasty moves with same type attack bonus and a particularly high special attack stat of 124. With 56 HP and 60 special defense, it is very much killable to the right Pokemon, but it also has 114 physical defense, so physical attackers will struggle to take it down too. The moveset that is most common on this, at least before it was banned, was mostly based around 2 moves. Hydro Pump, a 110 power water move with 80% accuracy, and Freeze Dry, a 70 power ice move with 100% accuracy and a 10% chance of applying the frozen status to its target, as well as being uniquely super effective against water types, which other ice attacks obviously just aren't. This adds to its coverage even further, and even if you only stick to these 2 stab moves that lets you super effect fire, ground, rock, grass, flying, dragon, and water types with a base special attack of 124, which, as you can imagine, is insanely strong. The next move in the common set is Terra Blast, and that is where things get even more silly. The most common Terra type for this Pokemon is Ice, which just lets you have a double stab on the ice attacks, with this being an 80 power move, making the damage silly. But the main advantage is that you can Terra to other types as well, and just have a Terra Blast as an 80 power move that will have stab, combine that with your super high special attack and your 136 speed base, and you have a Pokemon that will pretty much always attack first aside from priority moves, and can stab with any type it wants to, which makes it capable of countering whatever the strongest meta opponent is at that moment in time. The final part of the moveset then is U-Turn, which is quite simply a 70 power move that also switches your Pokemon out for another party member. This lets you avoid unfavorable matchups, as rare as they are for this, and prepare to return at a later time in the fight. Most commonly, this Pokemon was used with Focus Sash as its item to let it endure an attack from full health, which just guarantees you get at least 2 attacks off with this Pokemon due to its overly high speed. And that's more than enough, often, to faint 2 of your opponent's Pokemon. 1 for 2, nearly guaranteed at minimum, and you can't ask for much better than that. On top of that, you build your EVs for special attack and speed to just really pump it up, Calm Nature for special attack up, attack down, and the only real threat that you have are special attackers that use Choice Scarf to overcome your own speed. Number 2.
Dolphins are great!
Palafin. Like Houndstone, this one is relatively simple. Once you've activated its 0 to hero ability, which happens when you switch it in and then out and then back into battle, it goes up to a 650 base stat total. This is almost as high as the main Legendaries, which were banned too, by the way, and the actual distribution of these stats is nuts as well. 100 HP, 97 defense, and 87 special defense means it can tank an attack from pretty much anything that isn't buffed to all hell. It is water type, so literally only actually weak to grass and electric Pokemon, of which there aren't many in the current meta. As far as a moveset, Ice Punch is super common on it while not stab. You have to keep in mind that Palafin has literally 160 attack, which is the equivalent of a 107 attack Pokemon with the stab bonus, so it still hits like a truck while giving it coverage against grass, ground, flying, and dragon types. Flip Turn is used very commonly and quite reasonably. This move swaps the user out while also being a 60 power attack with stab. This lets you both get some damage in and set up 0 to hero in the first place, giving you a way to swap the Pokemon out, while also having some offensive effectiveness on top of that. Then we have Close Combat, which is of course just a nuts strong move. 120 base power with your 160 attack. Again, even without the stab, that is just nuts damage while also giving you coverage on normal, ice, rock, dark, and steel types. Count in its water moves as the final move of the set is Wave Crash, a 120 power water move with 33% recoil, and you literally have the type coverage to super effect 11 out of 18 types with one Pokemon with really strong attacks and a really high attack stat. With a stab bonus, it's insane, but again, even the attacks without stab are the equivalent of a 106 attack Pokemon with stab, so it's just nuts. As for the item that you would use with this Pokemon, it's quite simply a matter of making sure you go first in the turn order, and so Choice Scarf is generally the best option as a result. Of course, you'd want to go full attack and speed EVs to really boost those up even further, and Adamant Nature would be ideal. With that, Palafin, once in hero mode, becomes a one-shot machine against the vast majority of Pokemon that you could go against, and is simply unfairly strong compared to most other Pokemon, even the ones that are considered strong competitively. Number 1.
Zoinks! Ghosts! Ghost!
Flutter Mane. First up, this Pokemon is Ghost and Fairy typing, which is ridiculous as a combo. As a base, this means it is only super affected by other Ghost Pokemon, which it can also super affect because it's a Ghost Pokemon. Literally no other type in the game can do that. It has lots of great resistances too, and that's just the start of it. It has a base special attack of 135, which is incredibly high, a base special defense of 135, which is incredibly high, and a base speed of, you guessed it, 135, which is nearly unmatched. The result of this, quite simply, is it can go use super high power special attack moves and almost always go first in the turn order, letting it just easily snuff out your opponent like a match being lit under a waterfall. On top of this, its most commonly used moveset is Shadow Ball, a very powerful ghost move, which means it has stab as well, Moonblast, a very powerful fairy move, which means it has stab as well, and you can even run Taunt to make your opponent incapable of doing any status or stat changing shenanigans, and Calm Mind to raise your own special attack and special defense by one stage each. It is a ridiculous tank against special attackers, only really being threatened by physical attackers, but again, the main thing here is that it is so ridiculously fast and highly damaging that it can one-shot most things before they even get a chance to fight back in the first place. Of course, as a result, you want to train your EVs for special attack and speed to really just dig into the strength this Pokemon already has, and Calm Nature is ideal. The most common items on this are Choice Specs to boost your special attack even further, Focus Sash to keep you in the fight even if your opponent does get a strong physical move off, and of course Energy Booster, though realistically, if the star of your team is Flutter Mane, you should just have Sunny Day on a different one of your Pokemon instead of actually using Energy Booster on the Pokemon. It's also worth noting at this point that all Paradox Pokemon have been banned from the VGC doubles format for that exact reason. But even past that, Flutter Mane is undoubtedly the most busted even among them as a result of everything I've pointed out. It even destroys Terror Raids in a way most other Pokemon don't, so it isn't just a PvP Pokemon either, it is just silly strong in all respects. And that'll do for today, everyone. A bit of a deeper dive into what are undoubtedly 5 of the strongest Pokemon this generation. 4 of them literally banned by people who basically do competitive battling as a lifestyle, so it's hard to argue with. The reasons all make a lot of sense once you dive down into it, and hey, if you aren't out here playing in this specific community, this is just the knowledge you need to go absolutely destroy people in regular PvP matchups, or even in PvE, as of course every single Pokemon that I've talked about here is also exceptional in PvE for all the same reasons that they are in PvP. I hope you've enjoyed this discussion. Let me know if you think there are any other Pokemon that are even close to the level of these ones, and I hope you enjoy your battling over the coming days and weeks. Like if you liked the video, subscribe and hit the notification bell for more, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay sweet.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.